Welcome to Facebook Live and the Surface Navy Association's Continuing the Conversation Summer Series. And I am beyond excited to be able to host and moderate this episode's Continuing the Conversation with my fellow Fleet Master Chiefs, introducing them one at a time here. First, we have Fleet Master Chief Jackie Derosa, retired. And Jackie, coming into us from Texas. How is it down there?
It is hot.
Hot.
100 degrees today, so the pool is looking good.
Yeah, well, I know that's where you're going when this is done. Jackie, you served from 1981 to 2011 and were our first female Fleet Master Chief in the United States Navy when you were Fleet Forces Command. Thank you so much for paving the way for the rest of us and the future ones to come.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Fleet Master Chief April Beldo Lilly, because April Beldo got married last year. Welcome, April, and thank you for joining us today. And you are also in Texas, is that correct?
I am in San Antonio, and I will echo what Jackie said, 100 plus degrees. San Antonio is also steamy.
Oh, yeah. And do you have a pool to go into after this?
Okay, did you hear me mention a pool? I was not going to say anything, but I am definitely sad I'm not with Jackie.
Yeah, me too. I think there's a party back at Jackie's house now that the band is together, right?
There you go. Come on.
So, April, you served from 1983 to 2017 when you retired, and retired as the Fleet Master Chief for, now this is the long one, Manpower, Personnel Training, and Education.
Yes.
So thank you for being a part of this, paving the way too for the future of our, not just our women in the service, but our sailors in the service and all the education and training and manpower, big scope of responsibility. And we're going to talk about that a little bit when we start rolling in with some questions.
Excited to be here. Thanks, Joanne.
And Suze Whitman, Fleet Master retired Whitman. Woo, Suze! Now, Suze, I know that you retired from your position as Pacific Fleet, but you're not in Hawaii enjoying that weather right now. Where are you at?
I'm in North Carolina, and it is a cold 82 degrees.
Wow.
Just so you know.
Cold 82 degrees. Well, now, Sue, you served from 1985 to 2018, correct?
That's correct.
And then retired, as I said, the Pacific Fleet Fleet Master Chief. Big scope. And how many miles was that?
Oof, over 1 million plus.
Right? Just a few here and there.
Yeah.
All right, well, here in San Diego, it's going to get up to, I think, 93 degrees, and the pollen is out, so excuse me, with my allergies and everything else that comes with being over 50-something. Well, I am excited to have you four here. This is the first time the four of us are ever together, and we had to do it on Zoom. I mean, piecemeal, we've been, 2 or 3 at different symposiums, conventions, or board meetings, or selection boards, and what have you. So I'm just so excited to have the four of us together for the first time, and I hope it's not the last time. So a little plug here about Surface Navy Association, incorporated in 1985 as a nonprofit association, just establishing communications, training, education, mentoring, and a slew of things for our sailors and our Coast Guard cartermen who are part of our Surface Navy Association. National Symposium held in January, West Coast Symposium held in August, although 2020 does have some, anomalies to it. So what normally would have been our West Coast Symposium in August here in San Diego, we'll be doing a broadcast for that. And you can see information for that in August on our Facebook page or at navysna.org, navysna.org. And you can see more of these continuing the conversation subjects and our interviewees and our guests, both myself and some other moderators throughout the SNA board membership. So one of the other things that we're happy to announce is that we are now working closely with the National Surface Navy Museum that is on the USS Iowa in Los Angeles. Once this COVID-19 opens LA back and museums and so forth, I do encourage people when you're visiting LA, or if you live in the area, or if you have sailors, cuttermen in the area, drive up to the Iowa and get a tour and take a look at our surface, history, and the battleship Iowa. Amazing ship. I did a tour last year. All right, so now on to a few questions, because we have...
Joe, can I interrupt real quick? You didn't give us a little bit of your background.
Oh, well, there you go. Thanks, Jackie. I know when I'm the moderator, it's a little hard to...
You're one of us.
We could be sisters. A little bit of that haircut going in the summer. Yes, I served thank you, Jackie, from 1982 and retired in 2015, and retired as the Fleet Master Chief for Naval Forces Europe and Africa, and proud to do so. What a great experience. And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, listen to some of your experiences as well, and I'll dive in with a couple of questions too. So first, let's talk to Jackie, since you're our number one. You're number one. So Jackie, April, and Suze, we've got some questions that came in beforehand and some that are streaming. And first, you retired in 2011 after 30 years. I'm going to ask you, what are you up to now, Jackie?
So I'm trying to enjoy life. I work for Franklin Covey as a client partner. I've been doing that for 10 years. And, try to enjoy life, vacations, keeping busy. Still trying to make an impact.
Well, I would say you absolutely are still making an impact. I mean, for all of you, look at the sailors that you've raised and you've influenced. And, I'm one of those sailors you influenced, Jackie, and that I definitely would say you were a mentor in my career, back from being a force Master Chief for BUNED when I first knew of you, and then as the Fleet Master Chief, and then helping me a little bit with my questions about what to do in the career and so forth. So I thank you for that. So speaking of which, mentors. So question comes in, why are mentors so important in a career, and how do you find the right one?
I always see mentors as really kind of help you navigate your career waters. They have some, they've kind of been through it. They can help you make some right choices, or at least guide you a little bit so you can make your own decisions. But more than anything, I think I've always looked at mentors as a means to help me discover really what my potential could be. Because when you can't see it yourself, and to really tap into that. And I think, when finding the right one, I always look for people that, one, I could connect with, but were of high character and strong moral values. Somebody that was going somewhere in their career. And I always wanted to have multiple mentors, because one couldn't serve all needs. So to have a diverse group of mentors you can tap into, some are short-term, some are long-term. But I think it's important to have somebody that you can tap into to help you navigate those waters.
I like it. Yeah, I've had a few really good mentors, and I can't say I've chosen any bad mentors, but I've had some not so great in that character realm that tried to give me mentorship that I just said, I'll be right back.
Yeah. I think we've all had that.
April, you retired in 2017 after 33 years, and Jackie, you had 30 years. So, April, what are you up to now?
Well, as you said, I decided to share myself with somebody besides the Navy.
Yay.
So got married in March of 2019. Right after I retired, I stayed in the Virginia area for a year, and I took on a position with NJROTC. I had heard about it, and I loved the instructors out there, so I decided that I was going to try it, which I did do for about a year. I did a school year, but I just was not happy in Virginia. Everybody knows why. A little bit expensive, traffic. So I decided to follow Jackie. See, I've been following her since 1995. Speaking of mentors, Kitty Hawk, 1995. Right. We've known each other since 1995. That was HMC then. But anyway, followed her to Texas, and now I'm working with Human Resources with the small business, veteran-owned. I telework. They're based in Arlington, Virginia. I'm here in San Antonio. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So the transition of teleworking, once COVID-19 hit, it was seamless for me. And I'm grateful that I was able to keep my job because of that. So that's what I've been up to, trying to still navigate, the wifey role. I'm told I'm doing it pretty good, but yeah, that's what I've been doing since I retired. Thanks for asking.
Nice. So, okay, so throughout your career, you've seen some huge sweeping changes, as most of us have. What do you think had the biggest effect on you? What one big change?
Wow. Let's see. I'm going to go back to 1991. And I think all of us will definitely appreciate this. The combat exclusion law was removed, and we could all of us did it, went on aircraft carriers. And I think that was just a path that opened up my eyes and really showed me that there's more to the Navy than what I was doing. So I think that the combat exclusion law being changed back in 1991 allowed me the opportunity to go aboard my first carrier and do a deployment. Abraham Lincoln, Huyasus. But yeah, that was the biggest one for me. That was the biggest one for me. And I was on shore duty. And I remember putting in remember the chits we used to have to put in for request chit?
Yeah.
I put one in. I was working at the hospital in Corpus Christi. And I was like, they were closing down. They were reorganizing. So it was perfect opportunity in 1992. I left and I headed to HS6 in North Island. Yeah, so that was the biggest change that affected me.
That was huge. I mean, I remember I was at Lemoore, and for us as an air traffic controller, it was a 5-year shore duty, I picked up a chief there, and yada yada yada. And then I had the opportunity to, finally get to the aircraft carrier. And, we were all, breaking knees and tripping people to like, oh, sorry, execute your orders. I'll take them. So we were all, vying to get to that ship, and I had that opportunity. So I know that, that was great to finally get to the carrier. And hoorah, John C. Stennis. All right. So Suze, you were 2018 after your 32 years. What are you up to now?
Oh gosh, first and foremost, spending time with family. 32 years was a long haul. It was a great haul, but it's just spending time with my family, my husband. We've been married 32 years. And
congratulations.
Thank you. And our son Pocket Doc, he's here with us, and just spending time with family. I also volunteer not only in the community at Elizabeth City's food bank, and then I'm members of a couple of things for the Navy, one being the CPO Scholarship Fund, so I'll throw out a plug for them. And then also a member of the Tidewater Women's Unit 142, Women Across America. And I would say probably the most humbling is being an honorary member of the WAVES community. And that's why I'm here today. And I'm honored to be here with everybody, but without them paving the way for all of us, we just wouldn't be here. So, connecting with the community and still staying relevant with the military.
So, Suze, in your 32 years, what experience in the Navy helped shape who you are today?
So I can honestly say there's multiple experiences, but the one experience that I will start out with is in 1986 at VQ3 Barbers Point, Hawaii, and it was with my first chief, Linda Bamberger. And there she actually had the foundation, laid the foundation for me to kind of build on with others. And, she was fair and firm. She treated us like her own. And by our own, I mean the Navy family piece. If she wanted to put a boot up our 2-pack, she did. She wasn't afraid to. And, you know, she made us make goals, a 1-year goal, a 5-year goal, and a 10-year goal. And she made sure we got through that first-year goal. And by that, the one thing that I remember her always telling me that I carried through my 32 years was the only thing that's going to stop you is only you, your brain, your mind. And that in itself, God, I couldn't have made it without that comment from her. And with the 24 yeomen that were there, and you all know my previous rate was a yeoman, we pretty much stay in a constant communication with Facebook and text messaging. So it's just been great to see how everybody's doing after 30 plus years. So Chief Linda Bamberger, great woman, great Chief Petty Officer.
Wow, that's, you know, we talked a little bit about mentors earlier, and we actually have a question later on about that. But yeah, you know, I hope if folks take anything, you know, big away from this conversation is that we didn't make, you know, our way on our own. We didn't, you know, choose paths on our own. You have to have some of that guidance. You have to have, you know, both the listener and the director, you know, saying, look, I know you don't want to do this, but this is good for you. You're going to like this sweeping party.
When you talked about mentors before, you know, I've had the great opportunity to have all 3 of you mentor me. So thank you very much.
Back at you. So, okay, I retired in 2015 after my 33 years and, you know, absolutely loved it. And I reside here now in sunny San Diego, where it too is expensive, but I know that my taxes are paying to keep the beach rolling and the sun, you know, on with no humidity or a little humidity. It's a lot to pay for that, but you know, when you're on that retirement pay, you want to have all that fun, you know, and not have that second job. So I don't work for money. I just spend money. I do a lot of volunteer work. I'm proud to be a part of the SNA as the West Coast Vice President for the Surface Navy Association. I am also a board member for the Defense Advisory Committee on Women in the Services. In fact, I took Jackie's place as the Navy representative. I've been doing that for a little over 3 years now, and my 4-year appointment will end in September, and they've got some folks in the lineup to take my place that they'll announce probably the end of the month here when we do our quarterly meeting. And let's see what else. I am a California ambassador for the Women's Museum, and I am just, you know, hanging out and doing some crafts and going to all the Star Trek conventions and Star Trek cruises. I was always an inner Trekkie. And in my retirement, I was able to expose myself as a Trekkie and, you know, do all that geek stuff. So that's pretty much what I'm doing. All right, so let's see. We are going to dive into some of the questions that have come in and that are coming in. I'm getting some notifications here. So first off, I want to thank one of our very first questions from James Vanderheden. James is the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard, and he sent this question in for us. And I've known James for a while, since before he was the McPug. And he says, I want to thank you all for taking the time to share your thoughts. I'm grateful for your dedicated service. The Coast Guard contracted RAND to do a study on women's retention, and a lot. We are implementing the recommendations and making every effort to create an inclusive environment for all. I appreciate each of your perspectives, and I look forward to listening to each of you. So, Master Chief, I'll kick that off, and I'll say that, first of all, I thank you for doing the RAND study, you know, so that you can hear from the actual masses on what are the concerns. You know, in any community, you can't really go in and try to make positive changes if you don't know what those changes are that they're looking for that can affect them. So I appreciate you doing the RAND study. You know, first and foremost, we're sailors, but each of us does have, you know, a community specific, whether it's females or whether it's, you know, folks on the East Coast, or whether it's, you know, folks overseas, or aviation, or, you know, surface or Seabees or what have you. Each of us has, you know, our own desires and ilks that are going to make us stay. So I would say listen to what your sailors are saying is keeping them in. First and foremost, we think as leaders that it's pride of work, when it may be medical benefits. It's, you know, the travel, but really it's work satisfaction. So the best way to approach retention, I would say, with your sailors is listen to what they're saying is their retention goal, you know, why they want to stay, and then let them know what's available to reach that or to achieve that. A lot of us, particularly when we're young, have no idea all of the programs that are out there that will meet the needs that we're looking for. So I don't know what you don't know, and you don't know to tell me that you don't know it. And I don't know to ask because I think you know it. Now neither one of us know. So ask and speak up yourselves and let your leadership know. Jackie, any thoughts on?
No, I think you're spot on. I think, you know, the leadership has the greatest influence, period. You know, how well you connect with people, how well you listen to people, your level of respect with people, you know, so that determines whether people are want to stay or go. Has a big influence, because leaders, you know, have the greatest influence on culture, whether it's a team level or the organizational level. So I would just, you know, I would look at too those things that's going on within your culture that allow to persist, that are counter to your organizational values.
What do you think, April?
The only thing I was going to add is I know back in the day, we, being part of MPT&E, we did a lot of surveys, and we also asked RAND to come out and help us with the same challenges of retention in our sailors. But what I would just share is, don't make this one survey be the only one, you know, because once you start going forward and what they've given you for recommendations, you know, you always have to, I'm finding that even now in HR, you always have to go back and almost assess your assessment, you know, and because sometimes you might think we're moving in the right direction and we've answered the question based on what the information we got, and we get a whole nother group of people that we're talking to that's totally different, as Joanne said, you know, because things change. So I would just say continue to assess to make sure that hopefully you're moving to the goal that you want to reach.
Perfect. That's why you're at MPT&E. Suze, what are your thoughts on that?
So all of you've touched on it. It's communicate, communicate, communicate. What's good for one Coast Guardsman is not good for another Coast Guardsman. Their answers are too different. And what Jackie said, you only stay for leadership, you know, or benefits or whatever it is, but you have to have that constant communication to understand what's going on with your Coast Guardsmen. So that's all I would say.
Yeah, and I hope, James, that, you know, we've kind of touched a little bit on that. First and foremost, again, doing the RAND study is only the first step, but it's the best step, because if you didn't do it, you wouldn't know. And it's important for, you know, your Coast Guard, you know, sailors to know that you are out there asking and following up, and it's not just, you know, lip service. No sailor likes lip service. Well, not this sailor. Anyway, so here comes some more questions. Jackie, this is from, and I'm not going to give duty stations' last names or ratings out of respect for the person asking, but I do want to acknowledge them for sending in the question. So from Monica in California. Monica says, first, a short story. When I was a young HN at NMCP, that's Naval Medical Center, was it? Okay. Jackie came to speak. She was the first female Master Chief I had the pleasure of seeing. All I could think was, man, she is badass. And I want to be like her when I grow up. Well, I want to be like her when I grow up, too. Cool. So her question for you, Jackie. How did you battle through the issues serving with men and feeling like they have no respect for you, or you get that, you know, bull stigmatism from them? How did you manage that?
Well, first off, thank you, Monica, for the question. I got to tell you, so it's funny, when I was a young HN, I had a very similar experience when I was stationed at then Naval Hospital, San Diego. I went down, this is probably around 1983, went down to our PSD, and I saw this PN Master Chief, this female, and I just stood in awe, like, oh my God, they do exist. Female Master Chiefs. I was just like in awe and was totally inspired. So I get it. It was a rare sighting. But to get to the heart of your question, you know, battling the issues. First off, let me just say, you know what? There's always going to be folks that don't like you for whatever reason. Whether it's just a personal bias they have with women in uniform, whether they're, you know, it's an issue with regards to your performance and your mastery, how well you do your job. It doesn't really matter, you know, or it could be just your behavior, your actions. And so the bottom line is there's always going to be haters out there, people that just you're not going to get along with. Don't let them steal your energy, okay? Don't steal your energy. So the first thing I would say is how to combat that or prevent it is be a little bit more proactive. First off, check yourself. You know, are your actions and behaviors in alignment with our core values? Are you a person of high character? Are you giving them something that leads to their non-respect of you? Okay, so first check that. And then build your alliances. You know, get to know them, they get to know you. As you create connections with people and you understand who each other are, guess what? It reduces that stigmatism, those biases people may have, and then they walk away knowing you in a different light than just maybe casual observance. So, the bottom line is start with you first. Build those bridges, not the walls.
Oh, well, I like that. The bridges, not the walls.
Yeah.
I'm writing that down and stealing
I
it.
am too.
I might even attribute it to you, maybe. Bridges, not the wall. Well said. And thank you for the perspective. And thanks for, Monica, thanks for the question. So April, Alice in Virginia asks, what was the most influential or rewarding experience throughout your career, and how did it influence you as a leader?
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Alice, for the question. And you know, as you look at each of us, it's going to take a little bit of time to recollect. So bear with us. I'm just sharing that. But no, I remember it like it was just yesterday. And I believe one of my duty stations that I did not want to go to. I did not want to be there. I literally cried when I drove through the front gate. Great Lakes, Illinois, RTC, in February. Great Lakes, Illinois. I did not want to go there. I was coming from San Diego. So San Diego in February might be a little cool, 60 degrees, 50 some days, little rain, to Great Lakes, Illinois in February. It was culture shock. I did not want to be there. As a matter of fact, I'll be honest with you, and I asked my commanding officer to call up to NPC and try to get my orders changed, because you don't understand, sir. I don't have any children. I don't want any children. I haven't trained nobody except for my little work center. What are you doing to me? And I tell you what, after I finally got past the fact that he had to sit me down, he did not do that. First of all, let me share that with you. No, he did not do that. And he shared with me what a great experience it would be, even though he wasn't going, but he made me sure that I knew it was going to be a good experience. And then he had to be a leader, like we're talking about, and pass on the information I didn't want to hear. And what he told me was, at that time, I was a chief, AZC, Chief Beldo, their orders, not invitations. Wow. First time I heard that, and I've used it again, and people tell you, yes, you told me that too. But it's signed by a 3-star admiral. He's not asking if you want to go. And you're promised you'll still get paid on the 1st and 15th, and the influence that you will have on the future of the Navy. So of course, I still walked out of there a little bit perturbed, had a little bit of attitude, and felt like my leader was not taking care of this sailor. Wow, forward fast, graduate from RDC school. That's when it was a little bit longer than it is now. And the opportunity that I received on, first of all, understanding that there was a bigger Navy than just AZs and aviation. I was exposed to the entire Navy with regards to communities, just different personalities. Jackie talked about that, getting different mentors from all different walks of life, and understanding that we can agree to disagree. But at the end of the day, that particular duty station and assignment set me up for what I believe we're all talking about here today, was leadership and the opportunity to excel, because my eyes were opened. And now I had a 360-degree idea of what the Navy was about. And yeah, still contact a bunch of us that were RDCs back during, it was 1998 to 2001. And I loved it so much, I went back again from 2006 to 2009. So that was the biggest influencer in my life assignment, was RTC, and it set me up for the opportunities to get an aircraft carrier, to become a force of fleet master chief, to be able to serve all of you and understand the language, because I had a bunch of mentors that taught me there's more than just being an AZ in the United States Navy. Great question. I hope that helped you.
Touche. Yeah, I'm sure the same for, most of us, when you get exposed to more than your rating, you start going, oh, there is more than AZ or AC or YN or HN. Gosh forbid there's more than HN, I'm just saying.
Just a couple.
Hey, I was a CMC at the hospital in Guam, so I've got, I speak Navy medicine. Not a corpsman, but I spent a lot of time in the hospital. But Suze, we have a question for you. MJ from Ohio.
Hi, MJ.
He asks, how has your Navy career success assisted you in retirement planning and your career path?
So it took me a long time to figure out an answer for this one, and I don't know why, because it was just right there in front of me. When I joined the Navy in 1985, it was it's not just a job, it's an adventure. And 32 years provided so many adventures that I would have to say that I did kind of by myself, without my husband, and travel in the world. And I found my niche in the Navy. Kind of went to school before I joined, didn't really, college kind of wasn't my thing. I'll join the Navy because my dad was in the Navy. Was the only one to leave home, and that's it. I found my niche there. And what sold me is it's not just a job, it's an adventure. And I know the mottos change and the logos has changed, multiple times since then. But that is what really is the thing that set me up for my retirement. So, you know, Tom and I are leaving at the end of the week, and we're headed out for a 6-month retirement gift that we're giving ourselves. We're going on an RV trip that we have planned for the last 7 years. So remember setting goals? I talked about setting goals earlier, you know, and obtaining those goals. And, you know, it's as easy as that. It sounds hokey, but you know, it's just setting the goals and doing something, you know, that you and your spouse and significant other can just go and spend time together and experience for the first time. So that's my answer to MJ.
I'm excited for you going on.
I'm excited. I will say I'm scared a little bit because it's something new, but you know what? Hey, it's time to go. Let's go see the world.
Great adventure.
America, right? The United States. So yeah.
Love it.
Yes.
All right. So Jackie, next up for you, Courtney from Louisiana says, my question is about your journey to your success in your mental health. How did you stay the path and stay strong? I'm sure the road was not always easy, and I'm also sure you didn't always get the support you needed. What helped you to not quit when it all may have been too much?
Good question.
Well, definitely had some of those moments. Probably some of and first off, Courtney, thank you for the question. And I know that there's probably several out there that have, you know, similar thoughts and questions like that. But I'll tell you, I think my greatest challenge where I struggled the most was my first CMC tour. That was 2000. This before we had a CMC, you know, course. So, you know, you kind of learn from the School of Hard Knocks. You tapped into your mentors that had gone before you, but I was the only female chief on my ship. So my first CMC tour was at sea. It had to be at sea. I was the only female chief on board, and my greatest challenge was the mess. And I had a couple mast chiefs on board that, you know, were probably my greatest challenge. And I remember early on, we were on deployment. Early on in my, you know, the deployment cycle, going, what in the world did I get myself into? Was this a friggin' mess? I mean, I found myself really at wit's end. And as soon as we'd pull into port, I'd get on the phone, call my mentors, you know, call my friends that had, you know, gone the path before me, since retired, had sit-down chats with my CO, not for him to solve anything, but I needed to vent. I needed to talk things out. I needed to think, you know, I needed an ear. And, you know, and then it hit me. And this was a key for me, was why am I here? What was my purpose really? Why did I get into the CMC program to begin with? And it was to make a difference. My purpose was to make a difference, to lead and develop sailors. And all this stuff that was going on in the mess, these challenges I was having, folks trying to undermine me, was noise. They were distractions. And so I finally had to put that in its place and address that. But I had to move on with other chiefs in my mess that wanted the same results I was trying to get. And I moved forward, and I will tell you something. Oh, by the way, and a lot of workouts too, a lot of time in the gym. It's for my mental health. But I will tell you, in the end, that ended up being probably one of my best tours, because it was challenging. You learned a lot, and it set me up then for future success. So, you know, embrace those challenges, recognize them though for what they are, but don't let them take you off track. Remember what your purpose is, what your goals are, and stay focused on that. And hopefully then you'll get through it too. Thank you for the question.
Experience. I mean, sometimes you have to experience something crappy in order to be able to find the good in it and find a better response to it.
Yeah.
April.
And I was going to say, Jackie said something also. She got on the phone and she talked it out. So many times as leaders, we want to think that we cannot go ask for help, an ear to listen to, and we try to solve it ourselves because we are in a leadership position. But, you know, back in 2000, I think you said, Jackie, it was just different. What was expected of us and the options that we had and the services and resources that we had in 2000 that we now have in 2020 for our sailors and, you know, for the last couple of years, they're different. So don't, you know, I would just add on to that. You know, even you said as a CMC, I called somebody and I had to have a conversation with them so I could work through it. That for mental health purposes, you have to talk it out.
Yeah, you know, and as you said, you know, challenges in 2000 and challenges, I think as additionally as some commands, particularly ships, started having women on board as CMCs, that was new for them. It was an additional challenge that they tried to poke at you, you know, and I remember similar experiences. But, you know, I always tell them, I got my balls, I'll just wear them higher. You know, makes us all even. All right. April.
I can't right now. No, I'm just joking. Yes.
You know,
It is what it is.
Tiffany from Massachusetts asks, in light of recent events and the unrest, what advice would you provide leaders in order to keep unit cohesion and to not lose focus on the mission?
Okay, Tiffany from Massachusetts, thank you so much. And you know what, I appreciate you asking the question. I appreciate it being asked on this live feed because it's like a big old elephant sitting in the room that somebody has obviously uncovered. And I had an opportunity last week to talk about it on last Friday, and our CNO, or the CNO, excuse me, came out and provided some guidance for leaders. And it is it's a hard conversation to have. Let's just put it out there. It's very hard conversation. It's hard for me, and I'll use this audience that, you know, is on the screen right now. It's hard for me to articulate sometimes exactly how I am feeling as a female African-American. Okay, today, vice in the last 30 years that I've gone through. Okay, so leaders, remember sometimes when you say, how are you doing? And I'm having a hard time sharing with you how I'm doing. It's because it's hard for me too still, because I want you to understand something that you're probably never going to understand because you don't look like me. And that's, you know, unless you walked a mile in somebody else's shoes, and even then, you're not that individual, so it's difficult. So what I would share, Tiffany, is for leaders to, it's not going to get fixed overnight. We're not standing down. We're not having to stand down for the summer, and it's going to be fixed. It's going to take some time. So the patience, that's where I'm going with that. I know the CNO asked us to do something, and as leaders, we want to do it immediately. We want to make sure that we, you know, CO said do it, let's do it. It's going to take some time. So I'd ask that leaders be patient. I'd ask that when an individual is asked, how can I help, or what's going on with you, or how are you feeling today, when they can't explain that today, don't give up on them. Keep on asking them. Keep on asking, be patient. Now, as far as the mission, yes, that has to still be done. And I believe we all know that because that's why we're part of this organization. We want to be a part of the mission that the Navy provides. So we realize that. But what I would share is don't dismiss the conversation because of the mission. Be honest and say, I know we need to talk about this. I know feelings and emotions are running wild right now. We are going to deal with this every day, but right now we have an unrep to do. Or right now we need to, you know, go do this. talk about the fact that it is something that's going to have to be coordinated, but not dismissed, and just acknowledge it. I hope that helped you, Tiffany.
Yeah, Jackie, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to, add on to that a little bit, April. I think you're so spot on, and I think this is such so critically important conversation to have. And I think the key is having the conversations, not just one. This can't be a one and done. We're talking about there's mindset change, there's behavior change that has to take place, and this requires everybody. And for leaders, you need to be good listeners. You need to give people their time and space. Whether you're a person of color or not, it's impacting everybody. And, our as leaders' job right now is not to, basically tell everybody their personal opinion about this, but just be a good listener. Let's talk about this. Let's have a conversation, a safe and respectful conversation. And I would just take it to the next step. Do you know each other? Find a way to connect with those that are unlike yourself. Find something common that you connect with. And then have the courage to address the issues that you see in the organization. If somebody is being mistreated or ill, or conversations are being have the courage to stand up. Because together we can be better.
Yes.
Thanks, Jackie.
100% together, we can be better and we can do better. It's a great conversation, and Tiffany, question, and April, thank you for your insight. And all right, so we've got about 20 minutes left, maybe 10, 12 minutes. I'm going to move a little bit through these questions. Suze, Matthew from California asks, what advice do you offer to the young women who are entering the Navy this year and how they can be successful and make an impact on the fleet?
First, thanks, Matthew. Appreciate the question. I will tell you, I'm jealous. Holy cow. Joining the Navy this year, every rating is open to them, which is something that wasn't afforded to all of us. Going to sea out the gate, that wasn't afforded to us. So I'm just excited for our young female sailors on what there is for them. I would tell them to take everything they can from the Navy, i.e. get everything they can, the education, the travel, the schooling. And it just is to make you not only a better sailor, but if you decide not to stay in, it sets you up for success in the civilian world. I also want them to understand there's something much bigger than them. They're representing the Navy now, and not just, Suze from, Illinois. I mean, it is huge, and it's being part of something special that not everybody can be part of. So that's what I would tell them.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Right out the gate.
Yeah.
So Jackie, you talked earlier about the importance of a mentor and how to find the right one. Jody in California asks, who was your most influential mentor and why?
Thanks, Jody, for the question. Master Chief Gloria, HMCM, SW, FMF, Gloria Tuminello was one of my standout mentors. I was a young chief when I met her. This is during Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Our ships are doing turnover. She was on the Cape Cod, I was on the Acadia. And then we were later ended up being stationed together at Medical Center San Diego. But she represented so much about the Navy to me. I mean, she was a trailblazer in her own right. First woman that completed FMF school. She was an independent duty corpsman. She later became the 3 MEF CMC at Okinawa, on and on and on. Impressive career, always took hard jobs. She was much like Suze was talking about earlier with her chief, firm but fair. You know, she told you what you needed to hear, not what you wanted to hear. She was a door opener for me. She gave me good guidance, and really, you know, the conversations I had with her made me think hard about my own career, directions I wanted to take, and pathways. She was a huge inspiration to me.
It's good to know. And thanks for shouting out her name.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes when we're young shipmates, you know, and we have that, you know, LPO or that chief or that division officer or captain, you know, has that impact on us. And then at, you know, 10, 15 years later, you're going, yeah, you know, if it wasn't for so-and-so, I probably would have made some bad choices. And to thank them publicly or to send them a note, you know, just a quick, you know, thanks so much, you know, for that, you know, great short sea story. Because in my last years as the fleet mast chief, before I retired, I had an opportunity to attend a friend's retirement ceremony at in Monterey at the language school. She was a director up there. And we were in the audience, my husband and I, and she was going around thanking everybody for coming. And she says, you know, and I want to thank Joe Ortloff, you know, for coming out from Italy for this retirement, you know, and her husband, Rich, you know, was a friend of my husband, the Rick and Rich show. And then she said, and I want to thank Captain Nakagawa, one of my, you know, strongest mentors. And I looked at Rich and I go, Captain Nakagawa? Our Captain Nakagawa? And I turned around and he stood up and I was brought to my knees in tears. Captain Nakagawa was my first CO. And I was out at San Nicolas Island, and he was the CO of Point Magoo, so we fell under them. And I was a young E3, and so for all you E3s out there listening, yes, we were E3s.
Many moons ago.
I was a young E3, and I got the call, you know, that said, hey, you know, I was Fisher at the time, and they said, you got to go across Point Magoo and do some field day work and all this kind of stuff for the CO's change of command, and then put your whites on and your skirt and heels and go stand in the parade ground for this change of command. And back then with the change of command, if you ladies remember, and some of us old timers out there, you know who you are, the long in the tooth folks, the change of command was all that in a bag of chips. You know, the outgoing and the incoming did this full inspection of the whole, you know, troops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a long time.
Long story longer, because I don't know a short story. Here comes Captain Nakagawa. He's the outgoing. Couldn't tell you who the incoming was. But he came by, and I was, you know, trying to stand there full of pride that was, you know, from boot camp and instilled in me and my great LPOs and great chief. Thanks, Chief Chilson. But anyway, here comes Captain Nakagawa, and I'm trying to look out the corner of my eye but not move, you know, and I'm at, you know, attention, or parade rest, and they come to attention when he comes in front of you. And he looked me up and down and shook my hand and said, you know, thank you for your service, and, you know, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And he did that with every single sailor. A quick look up and down, you look sharp, thank you for your service. Now this later I found out was a man who had been shot down, you know, during the Vietnam War, and, you know, yada, yada, yada. And he had such an impact on me as a CO and what COs were supposed to be. And, you know, that you never know who you're going to be the first for. So always be someone's first impression and someone's last. And I never thanked him because I never thought about it. But I realized throughout my years how much he meant to me. And I was so grateful to finally have that chance. You know, things happen for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a chance to thank him for paving the way for being him. So anyway, that was the side story. Suze, MJ has another question from Ohio. When will we see the first female MCPON?
Wow. Thank you, MJ. What I will say is I don't know. But here's what I can tell you, kind of from my interview and how the process goes. There's only 17% females in the United States Navy. And in order to interview or even be part of a selection process to be MCPON, you have to work for a 3-star or 4-star. And there's usually maybe, let's say 10 selected, and out of those 10, let's say 5 get the greatest opportunity to interview with the CNO. And just so everybody understands, this isn't our first interview that we ever have, because, you know, as you go through being a CMC and then a force, you know, at the flag level, general officer level, you have to interview. So this isn't our first interview process, you know, the CNO. And you sit down and there's a group of questions that's asked. And at the end of the day, all 5 of those candidates are highly qualified to have the conversation or the interview with CNO. But in my, and I'm going to speak for my interview, there's a connection piece. And I did not connect with CNO. And you kind of know that throughout the conversation you have with the CNO during your interview. And I will tell you, it would be sad to be selected and you and your boss do not get along. I mean, it just makes for a long 3 years. And at the end of the day, the sailors are at the disadvantage. And that's my humble opinion. So, you know, it's how you connect with the person that's doing the interview. Now, I've been asked the question, hey, Suze, were you disappointed? And I will say I was disappointed, but I was disappointed because what no one really sees is all the female sailors. You know, you feel like you let them down because, you know, they just are, you know, God, you and April was part of the process also, you know, so it's just not there yet. I don't have a crystal ball that'll tell you, hey, it's going to be 2025 or 2028. But do know that when that female MCPON is selected, that person is highly qualified, they've had a great interview, and they've connected with the CNO. And the connection is the piece that makes it great for the Navy in a whole. So that's me. That's Suze's story. And I know there's others, so I'm going to kind of punt it over to whoever would like to chime in.
Well, I'm going to chime in real quick.
Okay.
I'm getting our, 2-minute warning that we're coming up on the hour. But because SNA is so phenomenal and our technicians are amazing, so that they can hear me, I'm going to extend this another 10 minutes or so, as long as our audience is fine with that, to give our panelists, our fleets, our fellow shipmates here, I'm getting a that's fine, LOL. To give you guys all an opportunity to answer just a couple more questions that have come in, and to respond to Sue's answer.
I have one more point to make, because I was trying to kind of rush to get to the end so everybody else could join in. What you have to understand is when I joined the Navy, I just came in for 4 years. I come from a little bitty town, 50 houses, and to have the honor just to be part of the 10, but then to go in to be part of the 5 to have that interview. I mean, what an honor, at the end of the day, it's awesome. It's just awesome. So that's
and I agree with you, Suze. I'm going to throw that, that comment in there too. I interviewed for MCPON in the series before yours, before I retired. And honestly, it was an amazing experience, but I echo 100% that this isn't about, when will the next woman be the MCPON based on the fact that she's a woman. It's when does that particular person going for the interview connect with the admiral that's doing the interview. When you interview with the flag officers, you have to have that connection. They have to know that you're their senior enlisted advisor, that they're bringing into that confidentiality circle. And if you don't have that connection in that first 2-3 minutes of a 12-minute interview or so, it's not going to happen. And the best response I think out of that from you, Suze, is it will affect the rest of the movie because you see that that relationship is strained.
That's correct.
Nobody wants to be the first female MCPON because they wanted a female MCPON.
That's right.
That's
Right.
true.
Nobody wants to be the first anything because somebody wanted the first something.
Mhm.
You want that on your own merit and your experience. And April, I know you interviewed, and Suze, you interviewed, and I interviewed. Jackie, did you interview?
Yeah, I interviewed with Sino Mullen.
Yeah. So all four of us have interviewed, made in that top 5. And again, when I interviewed, I wasn't the only woman in the 5. There were 2 of us. And so we've interviewed. So it's not a matter of, their opportunity wasn't there and the opportunity was. I would offer that, on the side note, without going into full explanation on how it works, to our female sailors out there that are asking that question as well, and our male counterparts who are raising that next MCPON, male or female. You can't make MCPON if you don't make senior chief to make master chief. You can't, go into the C&C program if you're not selected for master chief. That's a choice, and a lot of master chiefs, regardless, choose to stay in their source rating because that's where they're, happiest or where they feel they're making the biggest impact, and that's perfectly fine. We all went into the CMC program for different reasons. But then you have to be, on a second or third tour into that 3-star, 4-star, and you have to stay in that longevity, to be able to do that. And then you have to have the desire to be the MCPON or apply for that. Not everybody wants to be the MCPON, or a fleet or a force. That's kind of tough. So, understanding the process, I think is important too. And right now, female CMCs in the program that are going into flag officer positions, shout out to you, and I hope that you continue on. Medea Dudley, Laura,
Henley?
yes, thank you. Laura, Medea, all you guys that are in that leadership mess and moving forward, you've got a network behind you, not just here, but elsewhere. April, did you want to share any thoughts on that?
You sort of summed it up at the end when we were talking about the time also. I was just going to share that also. If you notice, about that time that each of us had an interview, we had over 25 years, I think each of us did. So as Joanne says, that there's, you just don't automatically, there's just steps, and everybody's priorities are different at different times, MJ. So to everybody, it's not about being the first, or when are they going to have a female MCPON. It's when are we going to get a panel that's prepared, that's ready, that's qualified. And oh, by the way, look, they're a sailor. They happen to be a female too. And they're going to get selected based on all that. But there's some time that goes along with that. So mentorship is a beautiful thing all the way. I still have mentors.
Yeah.
Jackie, you want to add anything to that?
The only thing I would add is, getting to the game, being on the short list. What gets you there is, your performance over the years, collective, your diversity of assignments, how well you perform, and and it's really comes down to, where's your focus at? Is it focus on yourself, or is it focus on developing others? And the focus has got to be on others. It really, I think those that are most successful in those positions are servant leaders. So I'll just leave you with that. Everything else that everybody else said is spot on.
So in order to eke in these last 2 things, I'm going to hold off on some more of the questions that are coming through that we've had. And for those that are asking questions or that have submitted questions, what we're going to do is we're going to compile those questions, and I'm going to share those with each of our, I guess here with Jackie and April and Sue, and give them an opportunity to each respond to those questions, and then we'll set it up with SNA to post for a later date so that you can see those and respectfully answer those questions that you took the time to ask. And so before we do that, as we wrap this up, I want to ask each one of you 2 questions. 1, what would you tell your younger self in boot camp? if you had a chance to go back for just a moment today, what would you tell your younger self in boot camp as you're getting ready to go into that last week and face the world? Jackie?
I think back to that time, my eyes were just so wide open. That was everything. But, I would tell myself, be a model of our core values. Be smart, make a difference, and be my best. Be your best self. You can't go wrong.
Love it. April, what would you tell your younger self in boot camp?
Take full responsibility of the decision that you made. Take full responsibility of the decision that you made to become a sailor. Because boot camp's one of those times where it's something that you've never experienced. And I believe I was looking for a lot of different people to blame on why I was there. But at the end of the day, because I wasn't having fun, but at the end of the day, the only person I could blame was myself because I'm the one who signed the paper. So I think
That's right.
if you can take responsibility for the fact that April, I made this decision to be in the Navy, to be a sailor, to see the world, to go out for this adventure, it will definitely be easier for you to make it through that uncertain time. Because that's what it was for me for the whole 9-12 weeks I was there. Because I did school right after that, right there. And it was like, what am I doing here? What did I do? I hate this. It's everybody's fault. Looking back, take full responsibility, and you will successfully graduate boot camp and A school.
I love it. Suze, what would you tell your younger Suze?
And I didn't learn this till probably, I'm a slow learner sometimes. I learned it a little bit later on. And I would say, just be the best damn sailor you can be. Work hard, take care of others. It's not about you. We all know that. But at the end of the day, we have two hands, and we need to reach back and bring two sailors with us on our journey, because you never know who those two sailors are. You're never going to know where you're going to end up, but isn't it great to train your relief along the way? And I wish I'd have learned that a little bit earlier on, but just be the best damn yeoman you can be. And, I'm a yeoman. And it'll all come in. It all falls into place, It'll happen when you're ready. So that's what I would say.
I love it. I think what I would tell my younger self in boot camp is, first, stop cutting your hair. They're going to let you grow it out and put it up.
Yeah.
But, as you can see, the following 35 years, I kept cutting my hair. When I joined the Navy at the time of delayed enlistment program, I could sit on my hair. And then,
Wow.
for boot camp, the recruiter said, they just sent a message traffic out early in the year and said you can't go in with the long hair. You got to go in above your collar. And I said, I quit. No, I think what I would tell my younger self in boot camp is, don't wait for things to happen to you. Make them happen for you. I didn't learn that until a lot later. I tried to do things for myself. I looked things up. And I did those things. But I think I relied too much on someone else until I was an E4, really, to tell me how to do things. What books to look in, or how to ask a question, or how to study, or that kind of stuff. And I relied too much, I think, on someone else in a leadership role to take me to the next step. When I had a great group of leaders when I got to Point Magoo, fellow controllers, some LPOs that, kind of helped me learn that, as April says, it's your responsibility, but, that I have to learn to ask the question. I have to ask, what is this? How is this done? And not be afraid. I have to be the one that says, I don't understand this process that I've been doing for like 6 months. I'm just following the book or following the process, but I don't understand it. These aha moments shouldn't come 10 years later, they should happen at that moment when you're learning how to save people's lives, particularly a fellow shipmate, as you're learning damage control and firefighting and you know, whatever your rating is that's going to save someone's butt under enemy fire. So I would definitely say, you know, don't wait for things to happen to you. Make them happen for you. You've got to ask. You know, we hear a lot in the upbringing in our service that we take care of sailors and we have to take care of sailors. And I would offer that I wasn't in it to take care of sailors. I was in it to help sailors learn to take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow, who's going to take care of you? So, you know, I just had to learn how to take care of myself in order to be better at how to help other sailors learn how to take care of themselves. So that's what I would tell the younger me. Learn that earlier. Okay, final, and we're going to shut this down. Jackie, shout out. Who would you send a shout out to?
Oh, my shout out goes to the Navy Hospital Corps. Hospital Corps birthday, 122 years, 17 June. Thank you, Hospital Corps, for all you do for our sailors and Marines around the globe.
Love it. April, who's your shout out?
Oh, and you know, Jackie, I'm going to copy her because my shout out goes to all those sailors that are out there at the tip of the spear, trying to get ready to go to the tip of the spear, staying focused, understanding that we realize that we put a lot on our sailors, but we wouldn't do it if we did not think that you could succeed. So thank you so much for what you on active duty are continuing to do every day, especially being away from your families. We love you guys.
Suze, who's your shout out?
So my shout out is for the Navy family as a whole, but more importantly, our spouses, significant others, friends, and family who are there for us as the sailors go out and do what they need to do. I want to thank them for their sacrifice as their sailors are out at the pointy end of the spear.
Who's your shout out?
I love that. My shout out is to every second chance sailor that's out there that's succeeding.
Nice.
Because, you know, we all make mistakes. And I'm sure I'm someone's mistake. So my shout out is to every second chance sailor that, you know, was given that second chance and took advantage of it. And you're succeeding. You're not throwing that opportunity away. And some of you second chance sailors are now CMCs and COs and fleets and forces and what have you. And so my shout outs to you. Thanks for taking that second chance seriously. All right, well, that's over the time that we've had today. I can't thank this group enough, and SNA and our audience for joining us today. Would you please let SNA know on our Facebook if you enjoyed this, if this is something you'd like to see again, and I can convince these ladies to join me again sometime. And then let us know who else you'd like to hear from, continuing the conversation series. Thank you for your time. Thank you for what you're doing. And go Navy, beat Army.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, great.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, Shaka.